Hello and welcome to That Fabric Guy. My name is Bas Land and every week here on YouTube I will be talking about Microsoft Fabric, teaching you bits and pieces hopefully. And today we're going to talk about how Fabric capacities on the one hand and reserved instances on the other hand communicate, and what reserved instances are and how they operate, because I see a lot of questions online, on LinkedIn, on Reddit, on chat groups that I'm in. So let's find out what reserved instances are for Microsoft Fabric. So I've created a few slides on what Fabric capacities versus reserved instances are. First, let's look at capacities. A capacity is a compute resource. It is the piece of compute power, of hardware if you will, all the way in the end, that your Fabric workspaces run on. A Fabric workspace is joined to a capacity and it runs on that capacity. The capacity is basically the virtual machine that your Fabric workspace is running on. A Fabric capacity is going against your pay-as-you-go bill. This pay-go bill is the bill that you get every month from Azure with all the usage of cloud services such as Fabric capacities, virtual machines, blob storage accounts, and so on. You can buy a Fabric capacity in powers of 2. So you can have an F2, an F4, an F8, and so on. It doubles every time. And it stands for the number of compute units that you get with that capacity. On the other hand, we have the reserved instance. Now, what is a reserved instance? It is just a billing concept. A reserved instance is not a special capacity that you can get. It is something that Fabric doesn't even know exists. It only exists in the Azure billing part and not in any compute allocation or whatever. All right, so Fabric doesn't know it exists. It is just a billing concept. And essentially it is prepaid compute. So when you buy the reservation, you buy upfront a commitment for a year to pay for a certain number of compute units. This number of compute units are deducted from your pay-as-you-go bill. So that means that you still have your regular Fabric capacity. You still have that F2 or F4 or whatever F number you have. And the number of reserved instance compute units that you have will be deducted from your pay-go bill. You prepay for a year or for a month, and if you prepay per month, then you have at least a yearly commitment, so you cannot stop billing just like that. And you can buy reserved instances per 1 CU, so that means that you can buy 5 CUs in a reserved instance. You cannot buy an F5 Fabric capacity, all right? You have to buy an F4 or an F8, not an F5. Now the price of your reserved instance is approximately 40% lower, so that is actually quite cool. And so what happens is that if you have an F2 and 2 compute units in your reserved instance, they go against each other. You buy the reserved instance at the 40% deducted rate, and you do not pay for those 2 CUs that are in your F2 capacity, because those 2 are deducted from your pay-go bill. The one thing that is very important and that is sometimes forgotten is that both the reservation or the reserved instance as well as the Fabric capacity must be in the same Azure subscription or it will not work. Now, a little example. I just touched on the 40% discount and how that is deducted. Let's find out how billing with a reserved instance actually works. So let's assume we have a very small Fabric environment. We have 2 Fabric CUs in our reserved instance and it is prepaid for the year, so we don't have to think about it. Now, there's a few scenarios that I want to go through with you. First of all, what if we have an F2 capacity that is on for the full month? Okay, then we have used 2 CUs for 30 days, which is 60 capacity unit days or CUDs. We also prepaid already for 60 CUDs because we prepaid for those 2 CUs for the 30 days in the month. So our total pay-go bill will be nothing. All right, we paid the 40% discount on the reserved instance. We do not pay anything on the pay-go rate. So another scenario would be having an F2 capacity that is on for the full month, scaled up for 2 days to an F4 capacity. So then we will have used 2 compute units for 30 days and 2 compute units, 2 additional compute units for 2 days. And mind you, we do not use 4 additional units for those 2 days because we already have an F4. We only bump up an additional 2 compute units. So in total, we will have used during that month 64 CUDs. We prepaid for 60 CUDs. So our total pay-as-you-go bill will be 4 CUDs. And those 4 CUDs will be billed at the pay-go rate, which is the full rate. This is not a discounted 60% rate that you're paying with the reserved in. So the last scenario that we want to go through is the F2 capacity being on for the full month, and then we scale up another F4 capacity. So not the existing F2 upscaled to an F4, no, it will be a new capacity on F4 that we will run for 5 days, and then we will pause it and delete it. We then will have used during that month 2 compute units for 30 days, that's the full month F2 capacity, and 4 units for 5 days, that's the F4 for 5 days. So in total we will have used 60 plus 20 is 80 CUDs. We prepaid in our reserved instance for 60 CUDs, so our total pay-as-you-go bill will be 20 additional CUDs. And those 20 additional CUDs, they will go again for the pay-go rate, so the higher rate. Now, mind you, in this example, I noted our usage in days, and actually Fabric will be built in minutes, not in days. It's just that the days are easier to explain. So keep in mind that your Fabric capacities are built by the minute. And as soon as you start or pause the capacity, the meter will start running. Now, let's see how we can actually create a reserved instance in the Azure portal. So let's dive back into my laptop. This is my playground in my Azure portal. I have a lot of testing stuff in here with Fabric, with all kinds of stuff, databases, VPNs, and so on. And today we're going to look at Fabric. Now we do have our TFG or that Fabric guy demo capacity in here. It is paused at the moment, and it doesn't really matter that it's paused. What we're looking at right now is our F2 capacity, and whether it's paused or not, it doesn't matter. The meter is running when we resume or start the capacity. But this has nothing to do with our reserved instances, right? So the billing itself goes through the capacity, and the compute that we have that goes through this capacity as well. So as soon as we resume it, we are able to use this capacity and use the workspaces that are running on this capacity. Okay, then those minutes, basically those compute unit minutes or compute unit seconds, are billed to the Azure subscription, and then only after that is done, we will look at how many reserved instances we had and how many compute unit seconds can be deducted from the pay-go rate. That's basically what's going on. Okay, so this is the part of the Fabric capacity. Now let's look at how we can find the reservations. It's actually very easy. We look at the big search bar here on top and we find reservations. And when we start typing, we already see reservations in here. It has a nice clock icon. And on this screen, we will find that indeed we have a reservation or a reserved instance for our Fabric capacities with an auto renewal set to on with a quantity of 2, and it's 100% used over the last day and the last 7 days. This will tell us whether we are actually using this reserved quantity. Now let's assume we would pause our capacity and then start it again and pause it again and start it again, and that is the only 2 compute units that we're using. Then the reservation here would have a lower than 100% utilization rate, right? We will not be making use of our prepayment. Now we get a 40% discount, so a little under 100% is still fine, as long as we're not dipping below, I don't know, a too low utilization rate of maybe 60, 65, 70%. Then we're still in the green, right? We're still paying less than what we would have paid otherwise in a fully pay-as-you-go system. Now this is the screen where we can find our existing reservations. Now let's say we want to create a new reservation. We would click on Add. We would find the service that we can create a reservation for. And as you can see, it's not just Microsoft Fabric. There's a lot of things that we can reserve. For example, virtual machines can be bought in a reserved instance. SQL databases or managed instances can be bought in a reserved instance. So there's a lot of Microsoft and Azure services that we can reserve in order for a discount. We are going to click on Microsoft Fabric. All right, in here we can find the configuration of our reservation. So basically we have to set the region to the region that we have our capacities in. So I set it to West Europe. For me, it can be any region basically that you are working with. For me personally, it's West Europe. And in here, I can select one of these products. If I click on one of the products, it will start loading the price. And I've chosen the 1 year upfront, and it will give us an $1,146 US, even though we're in Western Europe. We will pay in dollars. That's a 40% estimated saving. Now, if we click on the monthly billing frequency, this will give us again, loading the price. There we go. $95.50 US per month, mind you, and this is exactly the same price as the per year. So if you want less administrative hassle, go for the upfront one. If you want to preserve your cash flows a little bit, it doesn't hurt you to go with a monthly one. It's just that you get a monthly bill instead of a yearly bill, so it's a little bit more work. Now you might think that a 3-year capacity might give you more discount than a 1-year capacity. And indeed, you are right, it is a 41% estimated savings. So there is really no use at this time, at least, for a 3-year reservation. Now, I know that for some of the Microsoft services, such as virtual machines, sometimes a 3-year saving can bump up your savings from 40% to maybe 60%. So it can make sense there. For Fabric, it doesn't make sense at this time to get a 3-year reservation. The only way it makes sense is if prices are going up in the future. Then you might buy the same reservation next year and the year after at higher prices. Then a 3-year reservation might have locked you in at a lower price today. From here, if you selected the product and you have waited for the price to load, you can add the product to the cart. Now you see the recommended quantity here set to 0. If you have an active Fabric capacity without a reservation, that will actually show a number that Microsoft advises you to buy a reservation for. In my case, I already have a reservation covering my entire Fabric capacity, so the recommended quantity is nothing. The product is added to the cart. We can click on View Cart, and then we see our shopping cart in here. And this is really just shopping around for a software reservation, I think. We can give it a name. We can either toggle on or off our auto renewal. We can choose the billing frequency to be upfront for the year or monthly, and we can put a quantity in. And as you can see here, we can buy 1 compute unit in a reserved instance. We can buy 9 as well. And this makes sense if you have a capacity on and then at the lower level, higher level, lower level, higher level, you might be able to buy a reservation at that midway point. So do your calculations, do the math yourself, and make good use of the flexibility that you get here. Now, if you're done and you say, okay, yes, I want to buy upfront these 9 units, then you can see that the price here will be $10,000 or 8,700 euros. If you're buying in euros like me, then you can click on review and buy. And I'm not going to do that because I like my credit card. I don't want to burn it down. But this is basically what you would do. Once you've purchased the reservation, it is active instant. So it will be from that moment, from that minute on, it will be covering all your usage in your Fabric capacities. All right, I hope this made things a little bit clearer. I think that Fabric reservations should be clear by now. It's not a difficult topic, however, it is a very important topic to keep costs under control. Thank you for watching this. If you liked the video, press like, give me a big thumbs up. If you have any questions, then write me a comment. I will respond personally to all the comments that I get on YouTube. So if you want to get in touch, write a comment and I'll respond to you. If you like this video, and you like it so much that you want to see my other videos as well, then please follow my channel. I'm at about 250 followers now on this YouTube channel. I started just a couple months ago and it has been amazing, but I need more followers. And for this year, for the year 2026, I've given myself the goal to achieve 1,000 followers on my channel. So please follow my channel and make sure that every week when I publish a new video on Microsoft Fabric, you'll be the first to know. So thank you and see you next week.